Dr. James Perloff. He's the author of The Shadows of Power, an expose of private influence on American foreign policy that sold over 100,000 copies, and 2 books about the evidence against Darwin's theory of evolution, including Tornadoes in a Junkyard. He wrote for the New American Magazine for nearly 3 decades and is a regular contributor to HenryMacau.com. He wrote the script for Free Mind Films' new documentary Shadow Ring, due out for release this spring. And his newest book, Truth is a Lonely Warrior, is a comprehensive look at the satanic drive for world government. His website, jamesperloff.com. And it's so awesome to be able to welcome you to Freaky Friday, James. Pleasure to have you here. Zionism, James. What was the whole basis of Zionism? Why is it that, first of all, that people are ridiculed for kind of calling it out?
Yeah, it's a subject that I reserved actually for chapter 18, because I try to walk people up the hill gradiently, because this is one of those things that it's been taught to people that it's a hoax, the protocols of the learned elder Zion, to such a degree. I certainly thought that myself until I decided to investigate for myself, and then I saw that everything this book was predicting came true. And the reason they don't want you to look at it is because they don't want you to figure out that it is a blueprint for their plan of control. But yeah, people have been inundated, and I'm a Christian, but the Christian community, unfortunately, has been taught this idea very deliberately that the modern Zionist movement, reestablishing the modern state of Israel, is the equivalent of the biblical Israel, and therefore we must have some sort of allegiance to Israel. We're taught, we owe the Old Testament to them, and therefore we should support it politically. What Christians need to awaken to is that the forces that funded Zionism are the very same forces, the Rothschilds and their bankster extensions and satellites, that also funded world communism. The Zionists were very much almost synonymous with communism. There was the Warburgs and the Schiffs and the Rothschilds who funded the overthrowing of the Tsar. And they also have been the same people that have been funding the world government, going back to the UN and League of Nations and even before that. So the things that Christians recognize as bad, namely a police state, world order, and communism, were funded by these same people. And they need to take a second look at Israel, and they need to look at Israel's role in the various false flags. Perhaps the most egregious one, and one that you can, I think, grab people's attention with, is the attack on the USS Liberty, which the Israelis undertook with unmarked planes, hoping to get us into the Six-Day War on their side. And they've been using that same technique of blame it on the Arabs while we do it for a long time now. But it's something that, unfortunately, America's, traditionally been a Christian nation. The widespread Christian community thinks it needs to be in solidarity with Israel. It does not. Modern political Israel is an enemy of America and of Christianity, contrary to what we are taught by mainstream media and even from the pulpit.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. It's amazing how often and how quick people will come out and say, well, Israel's just it's the second coming of Israel. They're God's chosen people. So it has to be, it can't be. Why are people so deceived, James, when it comes to that?
I think it's a big lie. I think it's been repeated so often. This is a technique that the mainstream media uses over and over. And as you know, we have mainstream media being 90% of it is owned by just 6 gigantic corporations, which, of course, we can quickly name. They're Time Warner, Walt Disney, Viacom, News Corp, CBS, and NBC Universal. And so you get this consolidated viewpoint. People get the idea because we have so many news outlets, so many newspapers, and so many channels to choose from on cable, that if they're all saying the same thing, they must be right. But what they're not looking at is the ownership is the same. That's why you're getting this uniform viewpoint. But it's the big lie, I think, more than anything else. And also, Christians have been deceived by a long-term plan to infiltrate their theology and get them to think that they have to support Zionism.
Yeah. I just wanted to interject there, James. First of all, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you tonight. And we were just talking in the first half about the problems that you come across once you start talking about Zionism and Israel and stuff like that. And one of the problems I found is, like the white supremacist movement, National Socialists, who know a lot about Zionists and Israel, but unfortunately they still fall into that same supremacist ideology, which is basically Zionism. It's like two sides of the same coin. I don't know if you could agree, but it seems to me that Zionism is nothing but supremacist Jewish National Socialism.
Yes, I'm certain of that, and they engage in ethnic cleansing. For a long time, they forbid intermarriage in modern Israel, which, in Germany, if you weren't allowed to marry a Jew, that would be considered racism, but it was supposed to be okay for the Zionists to do that.
Oh, very interesting. I didn't know that.
Something else that I learned from other hosts on your network, Truth Frequency Radio, and as I look into it, I do believe it's true that when you get a really rabid white supremacist, someone who screams "kill all the Jews," sometimes that person is actually on the Zionist payroll, because it's sort of a ideological false flag. Those calls to kill all the Jews and white should reign supreme tend to repulse people, and they drive people right into Zionist hands. Kind of like the recent Charlie Hebdo incident, these false flags. This is like this is not a terrorist incident, this white supremacism, but it is a false flag of the mind that I believe the Zionists support, because it makes them look like the good guys. And so I think behind some of these white supremacists, you will find the Illuminati Zionist hand actually working to create a straw man, a false enemy that will draw people to them, the Zionists.
Wow, very good. Now,